Welcome to Gen 365 podcast. This is an initiative of Beyond the Veil Mission. And this is a podcast for the community to empower a generation of healing and hope 365 days of the year. Over the pandemic and after the pandemic, there was a huge conversation about, the concept of resting, the need to rest. And this woman, Tricia Hersey, did a great job really helping us to elaborate the issue or some of the ways or some of the issues that come in our way when we're trying to apply rest in our lives. What's the problem? Why we can't really rest? We are really a society that cannot rest. So what is happening? Anyhow, first of all, before we tap into that book, the book is called Rest is Resistance. Rest is Resistance by Tricia Hersey. This is an African-American woman. We're going to talk about it with my friend. She's back here. Now I'm calling you a friend because we've been talking.
We are friends.
The minute we start reacting to each other's stories, we are friends. That's it. Yeah. Anyhow, I'm glad Michaella Mutoni is back on the podcast. And we did a challenge on our Instagram page and we offered some of the book and we didn't choose the book or we suggested. What did we do?
No, you suggested the book. You were like, we're giving away this book. Who wants it? I was like, me, please. I want it.
Oh my God. And thank you so much. So yeah, we suggested to offer some of the books about wellness, self-help book, because at Beyond the Veil, what else? We always promote wellness, and wellness is not just sitting in counseling room. It's all the things that we do in our lives that promote our well-being. Michaella Mutoni, welcome back again. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. And I just need to know, we're going to talk about rest.
Yeah.
I need to know, how are you feeling today?
Today is great, actually. Today I had a tough day at work, so I was not happy. But then I had spinning with a friend. So that helped me work out my frustrations.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy to be here and I'm in like a much better space. So it's great.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
You know what? I've been using a lot grateful.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to use it again. I think it's a general way to describe. I am feeling secure. Yeah. I think lately I've been feeling secure, more grateful, content, and terrified. Terrified, yes. Okay. And terrified, content, grateful, hopeful, and what is? Yeah, I think that's one way I can describe how I'm feeling right now and how I've been feeling lately. Yeah.
Okay. Well, before you say terrified, I was going to be like, well, I really love that for you, that you're feeling secure and content and grateful. Then you say terrified and I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that one. I would ask you what are you terrified of, but then I feel I would be taking us in a different path. So
yeah, I think we can experience different emotions at the same time. And I think what I'm learning is that when we had our last conversation, I think you shared something like, learning how to maybe, you shared an example of how you used to do intense workout. And then when you had your baby, you kept trying until you realized, this is not going to work. And now you doing belly dancing, other ways that make you more happy. Then I think I've been learning that we can have and really actually, it's okay to have different emotions at the same time. Because sometimes when we feel, let's say I'm feeling afraid or I'm feeling terrified about maybe a new season coming, a new challenge coming, we give our power to that negative emotion a lot and we dismiss other things that are happening. And what I'm learning is that I am terrified because it can be no good reasons, but I think my fear are for good reasons. Either
Of course.
season, new challenge, new project coming up. Maybe they look way too bigger than what you are capable of and you're trying to stretch yourself. I'm terrified in that moment, but it does not dismiss the idea of, oh, I'm actually grateful that God can choose me for this type of work that I have no idea what to do with, but because I'm chosen for this, then I'm going to have to really either equip myself, figure out, but yeah, it's been helping me not to just give the power to the fear only, but also allow it to work hand in hand with other positive emotions that are happening in my life.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That was really powerful. I'm like, yeah.
We are ending up in the therapy room, right?
Exactly. But I mean, that's what great conversations are, right? They're therapy.
Anyhow, let's talk about this book. This is a review, but we don't want to do more of a review, but we want to discuss some of the interesting things that we found in the book that can be helpful to anyone who wants to read the book. And also we want to share our perspective. We want to share, how we think about the book. Rest is Resistance, just to give a short summary. This is a book by Tricia Hersey. The book I would say that it explores different concepts on rest, and it defines rest as a form of resistance. So when we say rest as a form of resistance, when we look at many ways we try to resist capitalism, we try to resist a society that is not equal to everyone. Over the time, we see different movements that people use to bring change in the community, in their society. And it looks like the voice of Tricia is more of, this is the time now that we are going to use rest as a form of resistance. We are going to use rest against the demands of capitalism and white supremacy in a way that, look at us, many of us working from home, but it feels like even when we go to bed, some of us have our office in our rooms. Now my bed is no longer my bed. My bed becomes my office. I can rest well knowing that I have 200 tasks waiting for me just few seconds away from my bed. It's like, the capitalism always gives something, but it takes away something from us. Oh, you can work from home. Guess what? Now expectations are higher. And when we look at the statistics, even right now, anxiety is at the highest level, especially in North America, as it has ever been. And many people are working from home. We are expected to have more time for ourselves, but it's not working. So in a summary, it's like, she's elaborating, exploring that concept of rest. How can we really use it as a movement to fight the demands of capitalism? She argued that rest is a radical act that can help us to heal from the wounds of oppression and exploitation. So, this is what we're going to be talking about. I need to know, first question or something, a topic to discuss with. What was your experience reading this book?
So this book triggered me, It really triggered me, to be honest. I was like, oh no, I already told Lydia we would talk about this book. Should I do it? But I'm not a good rester. Like, it's so interesting because she calls out capitalism and the way we work to live. And I really saw myself in that in some ways. I mean, I like nice things. Nice things require money. Money requires you to work hard. And so it really led me to think a lot. It was very much needed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the type of book like I would read and I'll be like, okay, that's enough for today. And I would change. Like I would go do something else because I was like, that was
Mm-hmm.
intense. I needed
Yes.
to process it. And then it was very much an activist book. Like I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that level of activism from
Yes.
her, like how she goes into, like Black American history and like how, capitalism and slavery and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. And
Yes.
obviously, like as an African person, as a random person,
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily, share that experience with her. But I was able to kind of relate it to colonization and patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So I could still understand what she was saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this book can, you're right, it can really actually benefit a lot, especially people who are more interested in activism as well. And I think on my end, I really appreciated that wake up call to see that maybe the stress we deal with it every single day, maybe it's not necessary, especially for Black people, Black women, especially Black women. We are always trying to carry everyone on our shoulder, trying to solve all the problems. Oh, there is an issue in the society. Who's standing up first? Black women. Who's in prison? Who got Black women? And I think reading that book really helped me. Especially, I see myself as an activist. I see myself as a community worker. I was like, hey, you can really solve everyone's problem. Slow down. I think this book for me was a really wake up call, and also to realize that there are always to be so many demands. Every new change is going to bring a demand because there's nothing really this society, this capitalism create without expecting a piece of us. And how do I really disconnect from that? How do I really honor myself as a human being to decide what I can be part of it? Honestly, it really helped me a lot because at some point I was like, I need to be part of everything. I need to support everything, especially that I'm doing the community work. I have to be part of things. Then I recognize, now I have to count. 5 events, either choose one or not at all. I don't have to respond to every need. Meetings every week, especially in this community work. Why do we have to meet every week? Maybe a meeting once a month, then I can read updates. So I think this was a really wake up call on my end as well. Okay, so the other thing I want us to talk, Hersey argues that race is a form of resistance against the demands of capitalism. And I think this is the overall summary of how someone can describe her book. And how did you find this statement?
I agree with it. I do really think that resting and taking care of ourselves goes against capitalism in some ways. So let me share an example. Like, I used to work in an office, right? So it's like you're in the office, you have to sit there and work. Even when you're done your work, you just have to be there, But it's like, why? And now I work from home, but it's almost like that conditioning has stayed with me where it's like, if it's between 9 to 5, like I have to be at my desk, I have to be working. But I'm a very productive person. Like if I sit down and I concentrate, I can get a day's work done in like 4 or 5 hours, which means I can at least take a little 30-minute nap, And some days I'm like, yo man, I'm really tired and I don't have meetings. Like I could go take a nap and like nothing is gonna happen. And I'm sure after that nap, I'll probably be more productive. But it's like, there was something like, no, you should not go rest because you're supposed to be working, And so when I was reading her book, I was like, why don't I take that nap? So now like every once in a while, I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I'm tired. Nap time. I'll go take the little nap, you know. And it's also very cultural, right? Like if you think about it in North America, it is a very capitalist type of setting, right? Where it's like work, 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 right? And there's always this saying like the poorest people are the ones who work the most. They're the most hardworking people. And then there's that whole concept of like work smarter, not harder. But it's like if you're working all the time and you're tired, you don't get time to think. You don't get time to be creative. You don't get time to like think of ways to get out.
She used a lot the word dreaming.
To dream and think of how to get out of this current situation because you're stuck in the wheel and you keep going and you keep going. But if you think at like the Mediterranean, like Italy, like the countries of the South, or like you think about Latin America, or you think about Africa, people take naps, man. People think the siesta is real, you know, when shops shut down because they realize like, yo, life is here, like life is important. We need to rest, right? So for me, that was kind of eye-opening. She forced me to revisit that.
Absolutely. Even like, you know, the Western culture, often when people go to Africa, people do things slowly. This is bad for the business. Why do we need to do things fast? You know, why, you know, sometimes I used to be like that when I go back home. I'm like, oh, things have to change. But then I'm like, nobody changed how we do things. Let us take our time. Let us really do things, you know. I watch a lot of Korean drama and I like when they talk. Do you watch them?
I have a friend who loves them, so she has forced me to watch some of them. So I know what you're talking about.
I am right now recruiting all my friends to watch Korean drama because I am a huge fan. I like the way when they talk, when they eat, when they express their emotions, they take their time. Someone might be wanting to tell you, let's see, I love you or thank you. First, they look at you straight in the eyes, pause, you like, what is happening? It takes 2 minutes, and then they're like, thank you. It's like, it's coming from somewhere. It's not rushed. Honestly, when I watch this Korean drama, I think they really help me to feel calm. They calm me down in a way. They help me, it feels like actually reading a book because I'm not watching a movie. Oh, a scene has to come right away, fast. It's like so slow. Like everything is so slow. So I think, you know, I agree with really, this statement because when you look at, when the slavery was ending, one way to protest, racism was, you know, either, this social movement, going, protesting, even if you think about this Black Lives Matters protest, everything. But the new movement is rest. How about maybe if we are not benefiting from this, let's say society, or how about we choose to rest instead of going to protest outside? How about like, you know, for example, when you look at the statistics, they say many Black people work harder, but they earn less. Why is that happening? Maybe choosing now to work smarter and rest more so we do not respond to those demands. I think really this statement was really powerful, and it's a new way to claim our right. It's a new way, you know, what do we have to come up with different organizations, so many things to respond to the failure of our government. What if we decide not to, so the government can do their job? Because we end up doing this work, many non-profit, the regulations, we can pay you to do this work. Guess what? All non-profit are doing the work the government failed to do. The people being paid in government office, they can't do their job, and now we have to start non-profit to fill in the gap, and we can't even be paid. And most of the people are experiencing burnout, working extra hours, and you're not even paid. So rest as a form of resistance, I think it is the way. Honestly, it is the way. And, you know, they step into race being a political act. And I think that's what we're talking about. What are your thoughts on this statement? And I think on my end, I share the piece of that. But for you, what do you think about that race being a political act?
Yeah, I also agree with it. I think that rest sets women free. The way that I interpreted it as a political act is that there's so many expectations on women, right?
Yes.
I think that's like a result of the patriarchy, whether it's running the community organization, like you said, whether it's always being there for everybody, giving and serving, whether it's like being the main house person, like house manager, like being the main person who is active at the house, you know, like women are tired, you know.
Yeah, we are tired.
And they're still working and they're still taking care of the house. And you see it like old moms, like mamas, you know, and they're still doing as much as if they were like 30 years old, you know. And it's like, so when do they get to rest? Like, when do they get to slow down? And so for me, that's where resting is a political act, because you're like, you know what, I'm tired of the BS. Like, I'm gonna prioritize myself. I'm gonna prioritize my healthcare, my health first, because if you're not okay, if you're not rested, then nothing that you work on is gonna be what it could be, right? Like, you cannot give from what you don't have.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been even reflecting on these conferences that never end. Conference about this, conference about that. She has a ministry called NAP Ministry, the author of the book.
I follow it.
And she organized events where people just come to sleep. Like,
you
sign up, that. I'm like,
take a nap.
If there is any event like that, I'm gonna sign up, take my money. I'm just coming to sleep, and I'm like, you know, all these conferences, all these things, especially this summer, I had an experience. I attended Women Deliver Conference. It's one of the feminist conference around the world. I think this one was was it the sixth one so far? I think they organize it every 2 to 3 years, and Africa was the first time. It was big. It was like, I remember when I traveled to Rwanda, I took Ethiopian airline. When we landed in Ethiopia, I found myself like in the middle of so many women. And for some reason, I was like, I asked one of them, are you going to the Women Deliver Conference? She's like, yeah. And everybody started coming. The entire plan was women going to the conference, and we connected from there. And these were like over 6,000 women coming across the globe. And I attended many conferences. Every single day, there were like maybe over 100 of them. Like, it was so hard to even decide which one. And one thing each conference, I was like, is this solving the women issues? I'm like, all this money, there's this panel that really, you know, the experience overall was powerful, especially being in the space with women who are killing it from different various backgrounds. I think it was really a blessing to be there. However, I'm like, we are sitting here to solve women issues around the world. Then I'm like, this panel, they were discussing about like, you know, access to grant, funding and everything. Recognizing that 2% of the grant goes in people that goes to feminist organization, go into 0.5% in Black organization, the rest in people of colors that go everywhere, Asia, Mexico, all these other countries that are not white countries, labeled white countries. The rest goes in the work of organization led by white communities. Then I'm like, on this panel, we see women who are doing jobs supporting over 500 people. Guess what? Operating on a budget of $2,000. Like, and they're doing big work. I'm like, what's the purpose of these conferences? How about all this money we give it to maybe the next Women Deliver be on the field? We are going on the field rather than just sitting here using this money in these conferences. Do we need them? Yes. But the money we put in these conferences. Look at the UN assembly happening in US. You know, all this, I saw one of the person, I really get very passionate about this issue. I'm so sorry. I'm like, 100,000 global prize. He's advocating for refugees. Some of his family members are still in the refugee camp.
I saw that one.
Isn't this a scam of capitalism? This young man is gonna go home celebrating UN. The UN is not really solving the real issue. So I think this topic.
You are tired. You are tired. Yeah. You know, funny story. I thought I would work in non-profit until I realized it's a scam, and I was like, it's all right. I bought it, the capitalist lifestyle. I was like, I'll make money and then I'll donate. But
you know what? I agree.
I don't want to discourage you, but
do you think I'm not discouraged? The dreams we come with in this world, thinking that we can save the world with this vision, this idea, it's okay. The thing is, you know, it's okay to do this work. However, when you see policies on this non-profit that make it impossible for the people who are actually doing the work, sometimes I'm like, you know, you get this grant, let's you get 100,000, but you realize that 60-70% of that money, you are required to use that money in administration, all these things. Maybe 20% go into doing the actual work. This is not a decision you make. This is a decision I made. And when I open my eyes, it's like, you know, all this support.
Yeah.
UN, global support for the minorities, people are facing poverty, vulnerable. Do they exist to solve the issues or keep us in our programs? So, anyway, let me not go there. Let's keep saying the book.
But actually, so I'll say one thing and then I'll bring us back on track. Okay. I think what's important, and it ties into the rest conversation actually, is to recognize that you're doing the best that you can with what you have.
Yes.
You know, so like to give yourself grace around that, not even just grace, to like recognize that, you know, and also recognize that you cannot save everybody, like you said earlier, you know. So I think this helps when you believe in God too, because it's like, God put me here for this one purpose. Like, this is my focus. This is my mission. So I'm going to believe that there are other people to fulfill like all the other mission, because we don't live alone, right? Like we're not one person. So if everybody does what they're supposed to do, like if you focus on your mission, I focus my mission, then together we are moving the world. Together we are making some change in our families, in our communities, but we're not killing ourselves while doing it, you know?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, the other thing that she said actually, where I was like, because earlier I was like, you can't pour from an empty cup. Like you have to rest so that you have something to give. What I actually really liked as well that she said that was kind of eye-opening for me was like, rest is your birthright, you know? Like and I thought that was also a political statement. Like I could nap the whole day today and I would still be worthy.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Like I don't have to nap because I don't have to rest because I did something.
Yeah, that statement was powerful. Yes.
You know, so I was like, oh, you mean I can just take a nap? Like, it's okay. So I thought that was also very political in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And before we move, there is something you said about recognizing your benefits and use them, especially when exploring motherhood. Look into companies that offer better benefits. And when I was reading this book, especially things that I just finished to share about, like, you know, doing this work of nonprofit, sometimes it can be overwhelming because it limits what you can offer with your calling and passion. I realized that one thing that I've learned and I keep learning is if you're tapping into this work, make sure that as you elaborate your vision, your mission, make sure that your mission can take care, is able to prioritize the people who are supporting that vision. Because we often hear something non-profit, volunteering, oh, we're going to do it for free. There's always that statement. But is it really, you understand even people work for you when they're working for non-profit and they're being paid to do the work. So does it stop them from doing the work with love? No, they're doing it with love, but they're still able to take care of themselves. So I think looking into this work, make sure that you say something, doing what you can with what you have. That means if you have your team, don't overwhelm your team in achieving a million things that you know that you can't afford to support them. You can't afford maybe to help them having that one day off to rest. So it is important to really elaborate your mission and mandate to be able to take care of the well-being of the people who are supporting the work and everything. Anyhow, I want to hear what you think. Hersey provides a number of strategies for incorporating rest into our lives. You know, some of the examples she talked about, you know, mindfulness, creating a routine, vacation, sleep, all these things we often hear. And I want to know, what are your thoughts on these strategies? You know, did she provide anything new? Because we always see all these self-help book be like, you know, 5 ways you can rest better, vacation, sleep, take care of yourself. Is there something missing, or she, you know, how can you compare the strategies she shared with other authors or other experts on rest?
Yeah, it's so interesting because in her book, she actually kind of gives shade to all these self-help Instagram and all of these like self-help strategies, saying like it's very superficial, right? But for me, I think what helped me is how she said, you don't have to wait for the vacation to rest. You can rest now. You can rest today, you know, because I think for me, resting was always almost like an escape. It's like, well, I'm going to go to Rwanda. That's where I'm going to go rest, you know. Yeah. But I'm not going to Rwanda tomorrow. Like, I'm going to Rwanda in 6 months or maybe next year, you know. Like, that's a big trip, like, you know. So what is it? So am I going to wait 6 months to rest? Like, what's going to happen in the in-between, you know? And so for me, it was like, okay, well, if I'm still here, if we're not going to Rwanda or going to a nice island, Cuba or something, like, what can I do right now? And that's actually where the idea of doing a staycation came. Yes. Because I could really, I was reading the book and listening to it as well. I was like, oh yeah, I could do something now. And initially I was like, this is stupid. I'm just going to stay home and do nothing. But it was the best thing ever because it gave me time to actually process all the mind stuff that I had, because I was always doing something. And then I had like this long mental to-do list that I hadn't worked on, you know. So it was great. And then another way that I think I've incorporated what she said is, like I told you a couple of weeks ago, I went to Montreal and I had a girls' weekend because I really was like, I'm tired. Like, I just want to spend some time with my friends, you know. And I think that was as a result as well of kind of listening to the book and reading the book and being like, I don't need to wait. I can figure out, there is something that I can do now to help me feel better. So for me, that was helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially that her book touched more on the political side. I also think that she really elaborated all the issues and all the things, but I also wish that she could have provided some of the strategies that we can use to fight that. You know, if the whole book is about, like, you know, using rest as a form of resistance to fight against capitalism demand, then tell me how. Do I wake up and quit my job, then what? But although that's not the message, because sometimes some of the people never read the book, they have a misunderstanding that that's her message. but that's not her message. But sometimes it's like, we talked about like, our last podcast, how the village now is no longer free. Sometimes you're gonna use the means to be able to rest. Even like, you mentioned staycation. Sometimes I can organize a retreat in my own home. I plan, maybe usually if I can, I can book a retreat home, but if the money is not money, I can be like, you know what, this date, I'm gonna have my kids away Saturday, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and off my phone in my room. I'm gonna Uber Eat and rest in my home, really clean my house, make it really a place that I can be like, I wanna be here and then be away. So I think you said something, I don't wanna rest because I did something and I deserve it. It is my birthright. That means even, let's say we have, people have like, most of the people have 15 days from work or vacation, maybe 5 days sick. Those are your days, you have right to them. Why do we always have to wait until I'm sick? Until there's the waiting of someone? How about I use those 5 days simply to do nothing because there's no plan? Because we use those days to assist at the event and we come back tired. So I think really this book was a wake-up call. And I need to know, there's also something she mentioned about race as a radical act that can help us to heal from the wounds of oppression and exploitation. In what way race can help us heal? I think this one, I loved it more. Yeah.
Do you? I struggled with this one. I was like, does it help us heal from the wounds of oppression? Tell me your thoughts first, and then I'll go.
So I think, especially we are speaking coming from the place of Black women, or let's say women in general. There's so much expectations, not only our families, it's not always a bad thing expecting something from us. It's not always bad thing that people can expect. I think as human beings, there's always that need to depend on one another. However, I think when we look at the society and the way, women especially, when we talk about exploitation, let's start with the exploitation.
Yeah, okay.
It's not just like, let's see, we pop these babies to create the world. That's already enough work for us. Then, so there's someone some people sometimes they do, what feminists really care? We used to just be women, make babies, cook, and now we have to make babies, be the CEOs, do all these bigger things, and we can't even do it. So I think the exploitation is like, there's always, every time, there is a time of my life I realize, every time I created the free time for me, something would take it. It's like, I was maybe in school, now I'm done school, I'm going to just be doing my internship, there's more time for me. Then my son started a new program because he can see that mom is home. Then someone from the community wake up with a new vision and we need you. There's always something coming up, or even yourself, because when we live, one way that is going to show you that you live a restless life, even when you have free time to relax, you have the need to do something more. You come up with new projects. You come up with so many things. It's like you can't be at peace with doing nothing. So when I say that rest can help us to heal from those wounds, is when intentionally, we decide there is a meeting. They put that meeting on Thursday, and I know Thursday is my day to rest. Even if that meeting, because that meeting, having a conflict with another meeting, when you save your meetings in your calendar and then, there is a conflict here, there's another meeting is my time to rest. So exactly. I think healing from those wounds, because it can really, I think, responding to the chaos of the society, it becomes traumatic in a way. When you're not doing it, you feel a bad person. There was an event of the community, Lydia was not there, or Michaella. Oh, she never shows up. She's never there. All of it. Nobody consider nights you don't sleep, raising your baby, talking to friends, supporting your auntie, all these things. I think healing for me is healing from our mind that demand us from responding to all these needs. And the minute we can be able, and I think when she said that, it has become a wound in a way to respond to this stress, to respond to this need. Even if you think about our children, at some point I used to respond to their needs all the time. Oh, my son want to go play soccer. Oh, let's go. You want to do that? Oh, let's go. Then I'm like, this cannot work. If my kids are in this program, one, this season, that's it. Next season, choose another one. This is what we can do. So I think, for some reason, it has become like, a part of our life to feel restless, and where calmness or rest becomes uncomfortable in our lives. And when you look at many people, even on the continent in Africa, look about the Black communities. Don't we have many projects? Many, multiple. Me and you will know that. But tell me, most of these projects for years, they remain in the building stage because we can really stop and focus on one maybe and make it bigger together. I meet Michaella, she tells me about the new podcast. I have an idea. Instead of, oh, Michaella, maybe can I come assist you because I'm so interested we do something. I'm going to start something too. I start the podcast, then I see Alice doing something. Oh, I'm going to do that too. So that's the restless mindset. And I think like it has become a wound. And until we really start applying rest in our lives, where you said it well, when I choose to rest, it is my birthright and I don't even have to explain. Right now in the meetings, I used to be, oh, sorry, I'm not going to be available because my son has soccer. I'm like, unfortunately, I am not going to be available and that's it. Is it because I'm going to go to sleep? None of your business. But rest has to be really a priority. Oppression as well. All these things we experience. Expectations. I'm going to say something that might put me to not a good place. But when I think about the new concept of Black excellence, I don't think I'm a fan of it. Because for me, that whole term of Black excellence we're selling everywhere, it's like now a message, or this culture of Black excellence, you have to really be someone who is achieving so many great things to fit in that category. We have it in schools now, high schools, Black excellence graduation, Black excellence work, senior entrepreneurship, all these things. We have to be careful. As long as we are inspiring the younger generation or even ourselves, but are we responding to this restless society that is demanding? And instead of healing these wounds, of really tapping into our birthright, resting so we can dream more, imagine more. Think about when you take a nap. Every time I see something that is over my head, I need a nap. Because from that nap, now I'm able to rewind my nervous system. I'm able to rest. Then I dream bigger. I tell people, do you know when I'm in Rwanda, how big I dream? Because I'm able to rest. I don't wake up stressing, I'm going to cook, I'm going to clean. My mind is able to rest. Most of the biggest projects I've able to achieve or create, most of them, I create them either when I'm on a retreat, when I'm somewhere I'm able to rest. So for me, haste is really a radical act that can help us to heal. Not even from oppression or exploitation, from anything. When we go to therapy, if I'm stressed out, my therapist first thing, Lydia, take a deep breath. Is that an invitation to rest? When I can rest, that's I'm telling my brain, let's think differently.
Yeah, I hear you. Oh man, so many good things.
And
no, so I noted a couple of things because I was like, don't lose it, don't lose it. I hear what you're saying about exploitation and oppression. And I agree with you, especially with women, right? We talked about it earlier, like there's always this expectation that women are the end all of everything. And if you don't do it, and especially in community activities, I used to be involved a lot. Like I was involved in high school. I was involved in university. I was involved as a young professional. I'm still a young professional as a single professional. But what you realize is that people will always take. Like there is always gonna be a need, right?
Yes.
And the need is never gonna end. So you have to get to a point where you realize for yourself, like, is this still serving me? Am I still really into this? Am I still gaining from it? Or is it helping me achieve whatever I want to achieve?
Yes.
And if it's not, am I really staying in by obligation? Because there will always be people who are disappointed, okay? Like, that's life. Those people who are disappointed are most likely not doing anything. But, and it's okay to disappoint other people and to prioritize your own life, you know? So, I had to learn that.
It's okay to disappoint other people. I hope you all heard that. It's okay to disappoint. But I want everybody to don't miss that part. Make sure you disappoint as many people as you can, please, for your success and your well-being.
To prioritize yourself, like we cannot be forever people pleasers. Like that's not our lives, you know. And then it was so funny when you were talking about your kids and all the different activities. So I used to listen to Brene Brown's podcast before she finished it.
Where is she? She needs to come back.
I know. And then she was talking, there was an episode where she was talking about her kids' activities. And her kids are older now. So she literally sat them down and would be like, okay, you want to do all these? And then you want to do all this. I think she has two. And she's like, this is what I have to do. And she would put down her list as well. And then she would put down what her husband has to do. And then they would look at it and compare and decide like which one has to go.
Yes.
And then the kids would see like, oh, actually mom can't take me to all these activities or dad can't take me to all these activities. So she really taught her children like there is a consequence to everything. You can't just make all these demands and think like we have the bandwidth to just satisfy them endlessly. Like we are also human beings. So we are doing our best, but you have to work with us. And I thought that was so smart. Like I made a bookmark of that in my mind of like something I want to do once Imena is older and can understand what's going on, you know. And then Black excellence, I died when you said it, when you were like, I'm tired of Black excellence. And I can understand, right? Because I'm quite sure
friends, my colleagues are gonna end me because some of them are actually doing the big work in the Black excellence, and I'm like, it's good.
Well, okay,
so there's always a balance. They are doing really amazing work. Yes.
Yeah. So two things. Like one, I think it's about context, right? I think that, let's say, like if we're in Rwanda, everybody is Black. The majority of people are Black. So their Black excellence is you're just part of being, right? Like for me, I always say, I realized I was Black when I moved to Germany because when I was in Rwanda, I was just Rwandan. I wasn't Black, you know? And so that's just, so if you're in Rwanda, you can be excellent, you can suck, you can just be a human being, you know? I think the concept of Black excellence exists for us here. And if you look at the roots of it, right, it's to counter the narrative that Black people are not smart, Black people are not high achievers, they can't do shit like, oh, sorry, I'm cursing. They can't do things, right? So that's where it came from. But I would actually argue my second point that she would probably agree with you. I'm quite sure she would probably say that Black excellence has now become a slave of capitalism.
Yes.
Right? I'm sure she would agree with that. She would say, because the concept of Black excellence is like, we are always striving and we're always achieving. And if you're not at the top of your class, if you're not at the top of your, of your field, then you're not doing anything with your life,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes against that, right? Because it goes back again to her. She's all about just as you are worthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just as you are worthy of rest. So I totally understand what you were trying to say. And actually it's something that I have had to unlearn.
Yes.
You know, so funny story, like I did my MBA in New York, and then when I finished, I didn't have a job,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I was really working hard to find a job, but I was an international student. So it was really hard because I needed an H-1B. And so I was like really focused on that. And then I was single. So I would go on these dates with these guys, you know, and for me in my mind, I was like, oh, but I don't have a job. Like, how are they going to date me? Like, if I don't have a job, you know, but these guys, they didn't care. Like, they didn't attach my worth to the fact that I have a job or I don't have a job, because they knew that I was looking for a job. It's going to come eventually. So I was the one who was more tied to my worth of having a job and being tied into this whole capitalism and thinking I'm not worthy if I'm not working, right? Whereas like the guys I was dating, they were like, yeah, it's all right. Like, but that also ties into the fact that guys don't really expect their wives to work, all of that jazz. But for me, it was like such a big deal. And for them, it wasn't. So, and for me, I was failing. I was not being Black excellence because I didn't have a job for like 6 months, you know? And when I think about it, I was so tired. I think I was probably depressed. And that's really a wound, right? That's a wound of, exploitation and oppression. So I understand what you mean.
Yeah. Even that wound, that's what we're talking about. Like, you know, Women's Day celebration. Who do we celebrate? Woman with PhD, but the woman maybe who did not finish high school, but who is serving the community in a way. Can we celebrate that woman? I think healing this wound of how we define achievement, success, vary depending on what success means to us. For sure, everyone desires success, but what does it mean? What does it look like? Someone having children, just maybe a simple work, being able to provide for their family, that's enough. And also someone deciding, I want to run multiple companies. That's good for you too. So we have different desires and we are content in different ways. Closing the conversation. Okay. So I am glad that we are having this conversation, and I think I really loved how the balance and your perspective in really looking at something with different angles. Like, you know, maybe there is a negative thing to it, but there's also a positive side to it. And I think it's never black and white. There's always the gray area, the middle ground in between. And we always have to look at it, you know, especially with the conversation, Black excellence, all these things. It's also uplifting many Black people across North America now, knowing that someone can really see my worth, someone can really see my work. So it's always really looking into the middle ground all the time. I just need to know, what are your thoughts on the book, you know, Rest is Resistance? Do you think it's a book you can recommend to anyone, to someone who's looking into learning about the importance of resting?
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was a great book. It gives you a different perspective. It really challenged me, like how she was really talking about, I know you think you need to work. I know you need money, because that's the first response, right? It's like, well, how are we going to live? You know, but she is also very spiritual, right? Like she grew up in the church and she believes in God. And if you are a person who believes, like, there is always that sense of God will provide as well. Now, sometimes it's taken to the other extreme where people don't do anything, right? But I thought I read it. It was great. Like I needed to read that because I needed to slow down a little bit. And I've always felt some sort of negative pressure against slowing down. Because,
Yes.
like when we're growing up, people are like, like a young woman can't be lazy, like you have to always be like working. And so for me, that was great. I would just, I guess, say like you said, it's not a step-by-step self-help book. It's more of a activism, giving you the context. But I thought that was really important. That's what we're missing in the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. I think really it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call. It really taught me how to honor people's space. I remember when the chair of the board of our organization was like, I don't need any meeting on the weekend after working hours, no meetings. And as someone was like, how are we going to do this? This is not possible. It is possible. It is possible. And when you decide to do it, because those meetings we put evening, people have to have dinner with their families. If you're into the nonprofit, you can feel like, I have my work and then evening I have to work on something else. But there is always a way. Instead, maybe wake up early, something like that, but also the time of people to rest, honor it. So I think this book, not only understanding the importance of resting other people, but also in my life, in my leadership as a parent, really, I think in a simple way, recognizing that rest is my birthright, as you really reminded us. I think that's a good concept to realize that I need to rest not because I have done something. I deserve this. I deserve this. Having even the confidence to not always explaining why we need to rest. If I'm talking to people in the group or anywhere, I need a day off. I don't need to explain why. It's for my day. I deserve it and nothing else. So anyway, to conclude, I'm curious to know. Every single book, when we read it, we always feel like, oh my God, I wish I could add something. I wish I can really, if I could rewrite this or maybe bring a second edition, this is what I can do.
Yeah.
Any chapter they think you can add to this book and why?
Yeah, so I'm going to share with you my latest obsession. It's called Human Design. Have you heard about it?
Human Design?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, let me explain quick. So it's a theory, sort of like how people believe in astrology and all of these things. It's a theory that the way you are born, you are meant to work a certain way. Like you are meant to operate a certain way. And the way that you, Lydia, you work is different than my way.
Yes.
But in the world, we are all expected to work within certain constraints, right? And so there are 5 different profiles in human design. There is a projector, a manifestor, a generator, a reflector, and a manifesting generator. But it's all about energy. How do you gain energy? How do you express energy? And all of that. And for me in this book, it's like, I would add that chapter because it would explain how like physiologically, we also don't have the same energy levels. So for example, Sicho, he's like a generator. So he has like a lot of energy. He's always doing things. He's very active, like always doing something, and it makes him happy. I'm like a projector. I need a lot of rest, and for the longest time I was fighting that because I was like, but I'm supposed to be productive, and there was always at the back of my mind, a voice that's like, oh my God, he's going to think I'm lazy. Oh my God, like, how they always tell you like, oh my God, if you're a good wife, you have to do this to be a good wife. You have to do that to be a good wife. Like, yeah. Like you, like, so at the beginning of like our marriage, I was always so stressed. Like he's going to think I'm so lazy. He wakes up earlier than me. All that conditioning until I realized like, I can't keep up with him. Like, I can't. Like, the amount of energy he has is nowhere equal to the amount of energy that I have.
Yes.
And so I'm never gonna catch up, you know? And I need more rest than he does, and that's okay, you know? And then also, like, this is my house. I can do whatever I want. Like, I don't have to do everything the way I grew up, you know? And so I would just add that. I would just add a chapter that kind of looks at how do people operate, how are their energy levels, and then, because you might need more rest than I do, or I might need more rest than you do. And if we don't have that understanding that we operate differently, then there might be judgment around that, right? And then, so I feel like that would bring another layer of understanding.
Yeah, that I think I appreciate that. I think you really came out with a better chapter, something that you can add to this book, and I think it is really perfect because even a personality trait wise, we are so different. I remember when I was taking a spiritual formation class, it was more how, like, seasonal, weekly, you have to always have that time, for yourself, quiet, silence, those things. It's good. But then personality wise, if I'm an extrovert, my way of recharging is through people. I need to meet my girlfriend, and then I come home, I clean the entire house, I cook. But if you keep me in one room, this is something, of course, I need, at the end of it, I always need to recharge for a renewal. But at the same time, my energy is through a deep conversation from my girlfriend. When I'm cooking, we do that with my girlfriends. Oh, let's cook together. We talk and then we finish 2 hours of cooking. But someone who's an introvert can be like, leave me alone. I need this time. It's been a while since I'm with people. I need some time for myself. So I think that's really my thought on what I can add, and with what you can add. I think yours is really, I think it's a very great perspective in ways that we are different, and how we are going to, to respond to the rest need is going to be different. On my end, for me, it's always money side. Like, if we're talking rest, they're going to be a part of money side. With whatever I have, any type of income, how do I, even like, encouraging, to use our resources financially to actually practice that rest in our lives? Or also, how do we make it work? Because the village is no longer just people, it's many other things. I believe in signing up to the NAP conference. I don't want to say things that I'm not too sure, but most of these conferences of wellness, they cost a lot.
They
Come
do.
for a yoga day, $150. Massage, $100. I think I needed a chapter on, no matter what, this capitalism taking all the money from us, and we are getting some as well. But I need to know, how do I really make it work? Especially using the aspect of financial resources to be able to access that. So I think your approach, that's really, stop fighting that idea, because me too, I can stay all night working, but don't wake me up early. I hate that. But unfortunately, my kids, I have to wake up. I have no choice.
I know you don't have a choice.
In a real world, I'm not a morning person. I can work until late, but don't wake me up early. So people are different, and thank you for that. Anyhow, we are so done. Anything to say to our audience? This was really, thank you. I think both conversation we had, it was really, I'm a very deep person, especially conversation wise. And I think talking to you, and I think someone who is going to listen from you, they're going to get that part. When you are really engaging in a conversation with someone and you really get more out of it, that's my experience, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much as well for having me. I think you're doing an amazing job, man. I hope you realize that. I know you have a lot going on. Like, as I was speaking to you in the first episode and the second episode, I was like, man, Lydia is goals, man. Lydia is goals. She is out here doing it, alone.
Thank
And
you.
so I really want to give you your flowers.
Thank
I
you.
really want to appreciate you and all the effort that you put in, like, I know it's not easy. I've had a podcast before. I know how much work it is. And so thank you for this conversation. I think we both needed it.
Yeah, we did. That's our evening conversation. Thank you so much. And to our audience, let us know what you think. Share your thoughts, share the conversation. There was really so much that can benefit anyone. Thank you. That's it for the week. We hope you gathered your dose of resilience for the week ahead. Follow Gen 365 podcast to know when the next episode comes up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or Google Podcasts. Share with your friends, community, and family, and do not also forget to follow and share feedback or questions on our community organization social media at Beyond the Veil Mission on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Or learn more about our work via our website at www.beyondtheveilmission.com. In the spirit of building resourceful, stronger communities, we can also help your community or business or organization to share your news and event on our podcast. Please email us for collaboration at podcastgen365@gmail.com. Thank you. Bye.